Hey, muy buenas tardes, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. And as always, do please allow me to start off by thanking everybody from the heart for everybody's words, wishes, prayers, and of course, the love you guys share by extending it or putting it down to send my way. Gracias from the heart. Also, for those that have been with me or are just joining, do please help send the message by most importantly share, right? It's how the message gets out to different angles, right? Gracias. Well, today I'm going to keep my promise on what I have said, right? Which I'm going to do a little profile. I'm somebody that a lot of people don't know a lot of, right? But it's going to be a two episode because by talking about this individual, I have to talk about his brother, right? Because he was up there too. And they had a lot of with my family. You know, these were the Torres brothers or the Torres family from El Llano de Refugio. For those that have been with me, know where the rancho is at, or where I'm at, right? Where my family's from, which is El Llano de la Cruz or El Tamarindo. Anyways, on this one I want to touch on El Jotate. You know, as we speak, he's currently in jail because a faction basically put trust, faith in to maintain that flow. Didn't want to see him in power, and when he got out of the states, paid to keep him in jail over BS, right? That's El Güero Palmas. But I will do a profile on Güero or the Palmas family, right? Anyways, a lot of people don't know about Jotate, right? He goes back to my dad's age. You know, and a lot of people say how everybody gets started. You gotta remember in the 80s, even now, right? There's certain ranches where there's nothing there. The families, all they have is that making maíz, if you guys get it, which is goma or verde that makes money to put food on the table, right? It's how this, when my family and the Torres family started, right? But, you know, it came at a point that Javier, he was a big player, right? When it came to Sinaloa, he started moving a lot of weight. He went from goma to zacate to polvo, right? And he literally had a lot. He eventually went into the States, you know. And this is before there was already, you know, El Chapo or Mayo out there doing their thing. But El Hotel was on its own, right? Torres family was just their own family, right? But how he got started, that a lot of people don't know, is how my dad got started, which is common in Mexico, right? Or Sinaloa, should I say. And it's government. They started with the federales, the federicos, right? Judicial federales, which they were called rurales, is what my dad was, right? The rurales were in charge. It was specific, judiciales that were in charge of the ranchos to attack what they would later become, right? It's how they met people. It's how it always happens, right? They were knocking down doors, but at the same time playing the part with one hand and with the other hand setting up things for failure. Because Mexico and failure, they go hand in hand, you know, just being sincere. But they were called catarios or something in that effect, right? I know this because again my dad was there. But you see, within time, all that backdoor, basically they took down the agency, right? So they all got arrested. There were some people like my jefe and uncle that never got arrested, but Javier Torres did. You know, he did whatever time. I'm not sure what year it was, but he got out and he kept pushing. You know, at one point, you could say, asked my family for help, and my family at this time, it was just polvo, zacate, goma, right? And of course, where his mistake was is he started feeling brave, right? He started doing what we see now, but we're talking about back in the days when there was no plazas. There was narcos, but the government wasn't that much involved yet, right? Again, he knew the ranchos, he knew the players, and he started working with El Cochiloco, which is somebody, that needs to be touched on. But anyways, he was big, right? But again, Manuel was his own person. As an uncle told me, he was just one of them individuals that like being in the ranches, caravana of Talibanes with them, armados on the truck with their pieces, and what you see now, but it was a time where you didn't see it. And would eventually lead to him going back to jail, right? And that's how you start picking up antigüedades here. And it's, believe me, firsthand, I know it's bad, right? Anyways, he got paid as usual in Mexico. He got out, went to Mazatlan, and in Mazatlan he was a heavy player. We're talking about what we see now, in El Rosario and Esquinapa and places like that. It was all set by JT. And again, he was a big player, but he feels strong enough, and instead of just sending material to where the market was at, if you guys get it, I just don't want them to trip on this. And all the way, his angle was from, SD to El Centro Valley. And he feels so secure. Again, it was a time that, it was more loose. It wasn't what you see now, or he left out there, right? And this is 92. The reason I know this, because where I was at, there was certain things that as a kid I assisted an uncle when it came to, again, we're from the rancho per se, right? We were right next door to each other. And he was doing big, You guys talk right now about El Mayo, El Chapo, El Mencho, but this was a player that he was out in the open, but not the way that you see it now, right? Mainly because of all the internet. But he got busted, and of course, the United States government, they don't only take you in, right? But they make you give everything to them, period. And he would eventually get out, but they had taken, mostly he needed too much help, to restart. And of course, his brother, he was already doing his thing, but he was more like, he liked to be in the shadows, right? In the ranchos, as Javier and my grandpa and my dad, they were used to, right? But Javier, well, confidence, right? Cockiness always gets a man. And anyways, he would eventually, Cochiloco had been killed already, and he would eventually get an offer from Zambada, the dad, the famous dad, right? That you see what's happening right now to here Culiacan, because he was a santo, right? But I want to make sure, even though something will probably hit my angle, right? But it's just, I want to start speaking about this because I think it's funny, right? Like the ranch is up in flames, all Culiacan, and it's cool, right? It's part of the game. But over lies, basically that Mayo got turned himself in. Let me go in a little more on Javier, right? Javier, around, if you were to ask, well, term and things, we were able to reach out to him where I was through a family member. And again, he had a lot going on for himself, but through El Mayo. He became Mayo's famous compadres, as he always made them, right, to join him, supposedly as a partnership, right? And he smarted up in the sense that when we reached out to him, he didn't want to leave Culiacan. He didn't want to leave, the areas where he was at and protected, which is how it should always be, right? And he had too many people. He was doing a lot, right? Again, he was with El Mayo, but he was close with my family, with the Señores de los Limones. I will touch on that too. But then the famous, lo pusieron type of thing. And we're talking about 2004, right? By this time, man, I could name Pilis, but they're not out there like that, right? That they were in touch with Javier. I'm not gonna say through me, because it was through a family member, right? In the sense that he was able to get better chicharrón than my family. Again, my family at that time sold nothing but pure goma and zacate, pura chesco, right? But anyways, you guys know the Pilis. They like chicharrón, so we plugged them up. They did their thing. Like I told you guys, I wasn't dumb like that, right? I'll bring it to the table, I'll bring it to them, introduce, open that door. I don't want nothing. And I disculpen, I se ven, right? But something real big amongst families here in Culiacan is El Mayo turned him in. He sent the Marine on him. And it was well known because at the time where they came, believe me, it was well known that Coronel was under El Mayo. And when he arrested him, he said it straight up, me mandó tu compadre. Te estás volviendo muy fuerte. You're becoming too strong. Ya no te quiere afuera. So they took him in. What El Mayo did not expect was that in jail he still had a lot of power, right? Mainly because his younger brother had a lot of movement, a lot of wiggle. And unfortunately, by this time Javier had already pulled him also to be a primer comandante, coronel, whatever, for un brazo armado of a los Zambadas. And El Ondeado became something big. If you guys ever heard about the war with the Beltranes, as you know firsthand, I was in that. And it was nothing nice, right? In these sections of profiles, I will be the losses too that we as my family and the whole my dad's side received behind that war, right? That's why I'm separating it, because El M1 story, El Ondeado story is something big, Javier, he was a big shot. A lot of his contacts, his stuff, Mayo took by setting him up. And then here's the kicker, right? They used to be all around the ranches, right? As an uncle told me, they were real famous when it came to El Mayo and El JT. They were compadres. They were in fiestas in the ranchos in the time that Mayo could do that, right? And there were certain things that only them two did. And next thing you know, La DEA receives all this information, right? I'm talking about point blank information of casas, mujeres, bodegas, where they could make arrests and they will flip on El JT. He did this because he's seen the power he still had in Mexico. So In 2006, for those that want to believe it, DEA works with certain heads in Mexico, right? And again, I'll probably get my butt whooped for this, right? Which is okay. And they took him, they extradited him to the States. They gave him whatever time, took from him whatever, and he was supposed to get out. Unfortunately, when he got out, 2013, around there, 12, El Mayo was strong, right? And I'll be sincere, even El Chapo, at that time they were starting to, because El Chapo started realizing how, how it became, let's do this to remove the people from getting power, to maintain power. And of course, we give them to the DEA, we give them to the Federicos, to allow them to allow us to keep working without being bothered, which is BS. Along the whole time, Mayo was setting up El Chapo, and that's why you see what you see now. People forget that El Macho Prieto killed Edgar, but you gotta remember El Macho Prieto called it in straight to El Mayo and set the truck and everything. You think Edgar's padrino, and then knowing he was out there, didn't know who it was, to tell El Macho to go ahead and handle business? It was done on purpose. It was all done with the purpose to disable El Chapo, to get arrested, or to slip, come into the city, and you guys seen, tell his compadre the location. Next thing you know, his compadre gets in the ear of Chapo's right hand man, and Chapo's right hand man gets good money, and they remove El Chapo from power for a little bit, right? Is what happened to Jotate. He came back to Mexico and they paid. Both them high individuals you see now, were they paid to have him arrested for a lot of things that didn't even belong to him, right? And we're talking about, again, 2012, 2013, and he's still in jail right now. The thing is, now that he's in Mexico, he cannot reach out no more, because, well, as you guys will see, I'll touch on this little brother. But the Torres family, they were real big. I was trying to think about their jefito's name. Anyways, Don Horacio, or something to that effect, he was my abuelo's good friend. And again, he was an humilde man, right? That grew his thing to have his kids survive. But it's the way certain factions that right now is offended, right? Both of them should not even speak about that, to be sincere. One's allowing a different state to come in, and another one's joining forces with Beltranes. Think about that. Beltranes in the war not just killed Edgar. At least when it came to my family and to the Limones and X, they killed a lot. We talk about the Torres. On my next episode, you guys will hear it. And remember, the Torres were the strong right arm of the Mayo Zambadas, for them to join forces with the Beltranes. Remember, they're known for, a lot of people think or say, right, it was Beltranes. It wasn't the Guasaves cartel from El Chapo Isidro. Same thing. Chapo Isidro had the Mazatlecos, Los H's. They were all his. So I know what they done. I would touch up on him, and I gotta put into words why I'm hated so much by him. I don't like to glorify them things, but I do want you guys to get of what I was really doing for opening doors for them pilis that in reality had no meaning. Look at this. This man, without getting sidetracked, right? Javier Torres, man, I don't even know how many years he's behind bars. Come from a family well respected. But El Mayo made sure to turn him in, have him killed. Wait until I tell you about the jefito. I just need to put it to where it's not hurtful to nobody. Because again, I'm not out here to help the Federicos, right? But I do want to be honest with you guys on everything. Anyways, this was the first out of many people El Mayo turned in. And again, as of right now, Mayo and my family, they're totally at war because they're with the Beltranes. So holding back, I'm not gonna hold back, At the end of the day, it is what it is, and it'll be what it is. I ain't nobody. I'm a sitting duck because of my health, but well, I'll just leave it like that, right? With this, I hope I made sense. You see, at the end of the day, I want you guys to get the picture as a whole. I know this is a start, so I hope I did put a little bit of common sense to the profile of the Jotate. He went from being, federal, judicial federal, in charge of the ranchos taken down, to start reaching contacts. When he got arrested the first time in the States, he went to the feds. And remember, I tell you guys how there's a lot more power in the feds because you start meeting other persons. You start, reaching angles you wouldn't reach. For example, him just being in the ranchos, right? But it comes a time where those smart individuals that held it down for a long time, at all times were working behind the scenes. You see, Mexico's trash when it comes to organized crime, and I hope my family forgives me for it, but it is. People don't have palabra. It's known on betrayals. And the reason I say this because, I'm Chicano. And it's real easy, like they say, for us pochos. Because even if we're born out here, but we're raised up there, we're considered pochos to them. Basically, to brainwash us. But I even say this for people out here, And don't believe the hype, I know there's money there. But remember, you're gonna make money for a week, 2 weeks before they use you as what it is, a pawn. Because as you see, even strong heads, they're meant to be put to secure the boss out here. And it ain't like in the States, right? When you fall and you can take the rap and say if your homeboys out of love, when you do it out of heart, that's one thing. But when your own boss rats on you, sends government on you, it's what these individuals are and were. But again, Jotate, as of a couple weeks that I spoke to my uncle because I want to do this for you guys, they're just not gonna let him out. El Mayo made sure of that. But again, I hope I made sense, everybody. I send my love. I'm trying something different on this one, as you guys could tell. Tell me yay, nay. Do tell me, por favor. I know it probably ain't pleasant to be hearing me and seeing not only my ugly mascara, but with this mask, I'm still in Culiacan. Just hold tight a little bit, por favor. Anyways, I send my love. Do please, again, let me know your thoughts. Muy buenas noches. Hope everybody rests. God bless. Stay true to yourself and loyal to loved ones.